And welcome into the roundtable. Bill Priestley here with you, along with Thomas Wasson, Tony Mulvey. We're going to do a little good idea, bad idea that we do every Thursday here for roundtable. 5 subjects for these two to agree or disagree on. Gentlemen, are you ready?
Okay. Let's do it.
Let's do this. All right. Hundreds of truck parks in Queens ticketed, booted, or towed. You see there, coming up here is going to be a map of New York City. And in fact, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, that's JFK Airport, where a lot of these trucks have been ticketed, booted, or towed. It's Operation Heavy Duty Enforcement, instituted by the City of Queens. Overnight truck parking is banned there from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. They issued 597 tickets, 87 wheel boots, and 55 towings between August 15th and August 19th because so many trucks park around the airport to try and, of course, move freight in and out of that particular area. Good idea or bad idea in terms of trying to move trucks out of this area? Obviously, you can see from the map, there's nowhere really to park. There's no area anywhere close to JFK, obviously nowhere area really in New York City. Mr. Wasson, I'll start with you. Was this a good idea to try and go after trucks like this?
It's just so mean. Why would you just, by the way, New York City metropolitan, millions of people need things. Let's just torment the people that deliver the things we need. Like, I understand, like, violations during the course of your business and stuff, but no overnight parking from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. I mean, when I was in trucking, we had to pay people extra to go on the island. This is how you get a bad street cred. This is how people don't deliver things into your town or city at this point.
All right, Mr. Mulvey?
Bad idea. I mean, I think one thing is, truck parking as a whole is a hot topic and obviously something that needs to be addressed, not just in New York City, but across the country. I know when I drive, I like to leave early in the morning and beat some of these things, and you just drive down and you see along the interstate, especially like on ramps, that's where you see trucks parked. Not really a safe place. I think you'll definitely hear Cassandra Gaines talk about that a lot, about don't park on the side of a ramp. Like, just don't do it. But I think when you're dealing with this, it's an area like New York City, obviously one of the 5 boroughs. There is nowhere to park for regular civilians. This is what keeps the economy going, these trucks, as Thomas alluded to. That's an area they deliver, and now you're adding a bad rep. Carriers just won't want to go in there at all and deal with it unless they're getting either, 1, really well compensated, which we've seen the market kind of deteriorate, or 2, hey, you're not going to have to be stuck there overnight. Yeah. I think that's going to be the other key. So there's going to be 2 ways to avoid it. You're either going to have to pay really well, or you're going to have to obviously be within those hours of 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. Or 9 p.m.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting to see how that works its way out. Let's go to number 2 here. Staying in the New York City area, in terms of New York port truckers pressing the FMC for an emergency order. Companies are urging the FMC that ocean carriers and marine terminals must share more accurate container storage data. Those companies which specialize in intermodal container drayage are responding to a comment request. This has come out of the Ocean Shipping Reform Act from the Federal Maritime Commission on a potential emergency order mandating such data be shared with trucking, shippers, and railroads. I'll start with you, Mr. Mulvey. We've often talked about how we don't like government intervention in a lot of things. Here we are seeing companies asking for it.
Yeah, I think some of this, I don't necessarily think this is a bad idea, right? This sharing of information is a good thing, and I think we see it here at FreightWaves. Like, that's the whole premise behind FreightWaves, right? Making things more transparent. I think that's a good thing. Overall, again, it's asking for government intervention. That's probably the way it's going to happen in this case, especially when you think about the ocean containers and the ports, how they interact with each other. The drayage carriers, intermodal, they're kind of separate entities that want this information. I think you're going to have somebody step in and be like, you've got to share this, but it's going to take, it's going to be difficult. I don't think...
It may take an act of Congress.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think these ocean carriers and the like are very subject to giving up their data.
Mr. Wasson?
I'm gonna take the contrarian point. I just want to take my chassis and go home. I don't want to share any data with these ocean carriers. And if you don't give me my chassis back, I will leave your things on the stack and let your things languish in the vine. And that's kind of how the supply chain thinks about these problems. The ocean carrier goes, I delivered it, not my problem. The poor drayage guy goes, why is it stuck on my chassis? And then the rest of the port goes, why can't you guys get these items off the stack? So Well, why is it that we haven't talked about this when things weren't backed up and it's been just this stupid for the past 2 decades? Like, yeah.
All right. We'll move on to number 3. Rail union groups say the Presidential Emergency Board recommendations do not go far enough. In other words, concerned about work-life balance, working conditions, wages, basically ignored by the Emergency Presidential Board. Union leaders are caught now between not accepting the recommendations or going back to union members and trying to sell it to them. Is this just a case of, folks, we just have to kind of back up and try? We're almost 3 years now into these negotiations that are going to set things from 2020 to 2025, Mr. Wasson.
I mean, like, part of a union's job is to obviously negotiate the best thing, but at the same time, as a union, how far do you want to go? I mean, we've got the West Coast ports deciding to haggle as well. There's a game of chicken when it comes to being in the union, and we're going to find out both sides, like, what's it going to take? So, honestly, we when it talks to rail union groups, it's obviously heavily regulated and stuff, but medium idea, caught between a rock and a hard place idea. There's not a really great answer to this situation because obviously being on a train sucks for long periods of time. So I feel that, but at the same time, overplay your hand. I don't know the answer to that question. So
yeah, this is a debate that's been going on for years, Tony.
I mean, I think a labor union's always going to say things don't go far enough. I think their job is to get it to go to where they want, and it's that balancing act. And I think that's where I was like, I don't know. I mean, this one's one of those interesting ones that's, you obviously want working conditions to be safe, but I mean, safety should be the key. Work-life balance, I mean, you look at other industries, right? I mean, construction, things like that. I mean, they have work-life balances. They're pilots. Granted, they all have unions, but their work-life balance is very different, right? It just comes kind of with the territory of that job. So that's where it's like, I don't know if work-life balance is necessarily just one of those things to go after in terms of like, this is why we won't agree to it because of the work-life balance. It's like, well, kind of, I don't want to say suck it up, but like that's an issue that everybody faces, not just those that work on railroads. It's an issue across every industry, everywhere. It's
a tough working environment, of course. They're all definitely trying to do the best they can for each other, but at the same time, what concessions do you make, and do you try and sell that to your union? That's obviously a big question there as well. Next one, are owner-operators a target? Looking at several stories here from the past couple of weeks or so, obviously the AB5 ruling in California went very anti-owner-operator, or at least anti-independent contractor. We already talked about the FMCSA may institute hair follicle testing, which of course doesn't necessarily bode well in that owner-operator category. The C.H. Robinson case adds brokers to liability in an accident, and of course the freight recession as a whole, which sent a lot of owner-operators into working for larger carriers. That's mostly self-inflicted because they came into the business very quickly also in that well. Are they the target or are they an innocent bystander that's just caught in the wrong place at the wrong time right here, Tony?
I think they are caught wrong place, wrong time. I think, I don't say they're a target. I mean, AB5 is one of those things that's very interesting, and there's a lot of nuance to it, and I think it's how is it going to be enforced, things like that. That's the one that may be the target, right? But I mean, if you think about AB5's initial idea was for like gig workers, like Uber drivers and things like that, not the truck impacts of it. So I don't think it's being targeted. I mean, all these other things, FMCSA, it's just a safety thing across the board. It's not a target to owner-operators. The freight recession, the ones that came into the market, that's kind of their own doing. But I mean, they were trying to take advantage of the market the way it was, and guess what? The market changes the same way it does in any market.
Thomas, a lot of these things, issues and so forth, also bode very well for big carriers too.
I'm going to take the contrarian take. I'm going to go with the fact of, we'll just say targeted. You ask someone like OIDA and somebody else, coming from a large carrier, I don't want owner-operators. I want indentured servants who buy my stuff as a lease purchase driver. It's the truth. I bought it for $150. I'm going to sell it to you for $200,000. No credit down, no money down. By the way, working through a third party, you'll work for me now. Welcome to the family. I'm paying a quarter less for you as well. So, I mean, honestly, for owner-operators, it's a hard knock life. Trucking, if if you decide to protest, you're out of a job and you're not making any money. So the system itself is designed to snuff out any form of movement, and drivers are so disparate you can't get them to agree on anything. So, I mean, owner-operators are being picked on because they haven't flexed. You really want to flex, you get all these millions of owner-operators, you decide to just strike. Don't deliver some things. Let's see what Queens, let's not go into Queens. Let's see how long Queens lasts. I mean, honestly, the problem is the system is designed to not let them do that. We don't want owner-operators to get an idea of how much their value is and their time is, because then all of our stuff costs more money, and American consumers hate that. So I'm going to say an unfortunate byproduct because they just don't have the bargaining power. AB5 was designed for Uber and Lyft, and they got out of it, and it just happened to get the owner-operators. You know, nothing personal, kids, but that's kind of the situation we're in right now, and it's very unfortunate.
All right, last one real quick. Drones versus bikes. This is a situation that looks like it's going to be here for a while in terms of which we prefer. A research paper published last week on patterns says that delivery drones are the most energy-intensive vehicles when greenhouse gas emissions are measured on a per metric per ton basis. The pros, drones are faster but worse for the environment. They are significantly less than trucks or vans, but would you rather see an army of bicyclists or drones delivering packages, Mr. Wasson?
Bicyclist, where's our carbon coming from? Is it coming from a coal-burning power plant or that guy who ate too much Wendy's? I want the guy who burns clean calories, folks. America has an obesity crisis. Put him on bikes.
I would say bikes, but there's a caveat in that is the fact that there needs to be better infrastructure for bikes, because I can get tired of them just riding down the center of the road and then unable to pass them.
All right. We'll have to leave it right there, gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. This has been the Roundtable. We'll take a short, let's jump over and join Kaylee next for weather.